The door slammed open with a sound like thunder. Jessica screamed, half naked, wrapped in a hotel sheet. And Tyler? That smug piece of trash just froze like a deer in headlights. I stood there, calm, watching them scramble like cockroaches. You spent my money to sleep with this clown? I asked. Jessica didn't answer. Her mascara was smeared, her mouth open, too stunned to lie, for once. But I wasn't there to talk. I tossed her apartment key on the floor between their shoes. That one doesn't work anymore, I said. New locks, new bank accounts. And guess what? You're not on any of them. Tyler puffed his chest. You can't just. I stepped forward. Sit down, Junior. You're lucky I didn't bring a bat. Jessica started crying. Not because she regretted anything, but because her little escape plan had just turned into a nightmare. Let me back up a second. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't me going crazy. This was planned revenge. It all started 3 days ago, when she told me she was going on a girls' trip to Miami. Funny thing is, her best friend Ashley was with her fiancé in Colorado that weekend. I called her, just to be sure. That's when the math started breaking. And when Jessica blocked my number an hour after her flight landed, I knew. But here's the thing about betrayal. It's not just the cheating. It's the smugness. The confidence that you're too weak to react. That you'll beg, cry, forgive. I don't forgive. I erase. By the time they ordered champagne in their hotel suite, I had already drained every joint account. Her gym pass? Canceled. Her car lease? Suspended. Her apartment lease? Terminated under my name. She left with Tyler, thinking she was escaping. She came back homeless. And I wasn't done. That night, her mother called me, yelling, sobbing. You monster. You ruined her life. I just smiled and whispered, no. I gave her a new one. One where she learns the price of betrayal. Click. I hung up. And from that moment on, everything changed. You think this story's over? No, my friend. This was just the first move. Because what I discovered next made everything even darker. After I walked out of that hotel suite, I didn't feel relief. I felt the start of something darker. Not rage, clarity. She thought this was checkmate. But I had pawns she didn't even know existed. When Jessica moved in with me 2 years ago, I had a security camera installed in the hallway of our apartment. Not because I suspected her, but because the landlord warned me about break-ins. She knew about it. What she didn't know was that I never removed the cloud backup. That morning, after returning from the hotel scene, I logged into the account. I expected maybe a clip of her leaving with a suitcase. What I found? 27 recordings. All within the last 2 months. Clip 1, Tyler standing at my front door. Shirt tight, cologne thick in the air, even through the screen. Clip 2, Jessica pulling him in, kissing him before the door even closed. Clip 6, he enters with a six-pack and leaves 5 hours later, shirtless. Clip 11, Jessica in a towel, waving goodbye, blowing kisses. Like it was their home. And the worst part? Clip 19, Tyler and Jessica, both laughing, carrying my gaming chair into the hallway. They had sold my stuff. My chest clenched. My fists curled. This wasn't just cheating. It was looting. They didn't love each other. They loved what I gave them. And they thought I'd never find out. I downloaded every clip, compressed them into one video. Then I sent it to her work email with the subject line, for the HR folder. No message, just the footage. She worked at a law firm. Image meant everything. I gave her a silent nuke. Not 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with her name. I didn't answer. She called again, and again. Then the messages started. I can explain. You're being dramatic. It didn't mean anything. Please don't send that to anyone else. I stared at the last one the longest. Not sorry. Not ashamed. Just scared. I turned off my phone and took a walk. That's when I bumped into Ethan, my neighbor from 2 doors down. Nice guy. Quiet. Always walking his dog. Never caused drama. He nodded, then hesitated. Hey man, can I ask you something? Sure. That guy? The one who used to come around when you weren't home? Kinda loud, flashy? My heart slowed. Yeah. He looked away for a second. I caught him trying to key your car once. Told him I'd call the cops. He backed off. Thought maybe it was just some drunk friend of yours. I clenched my jaw. That wasn't just a violation of trust. That was disrespect. He wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was marking territory. Trying to break what he didn't own. Thanks for telling me, man, I said. Ethan nodded and walked off. I stood on the sidewalk, staring at my car. I had been played, robbed, humiliated. But I wasn't broken. No, Now I was building something. Something calculated. Something permanent. I went back inside and opened my laptop. Time to dig deeper. Tyler's social media was public. Classic narcissist move. Every post was a flex. New watches. New trips. New women. Except, I noticed something strange. A post from 3 weeks ago. A selfie with Jessica in a mirror. Caption, "She's the real one." Only, the mirror showed my bedroom in the background. They had been together longer than I thought. And they'd been doing it in my house. In my bed, I leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. She had turned my life into a stage for their little soap opera. Fine. But if they wanted drama, I was about to write the finale. The first time Jessica lied to me was about a parking ticket. She said it wasn't hers. I paid it anyway. The second time was about a dinner, some vague excuse about a late meeting. But the receipt I found showed 2 entrees and 3 margaritas. And then there were the girl trips. Always somewhere warm, always suspiciously timed when I was slammed with work. I'd be stuck in conference calls while she'd be posting filtered pictures with captions like, "Self-care weekend." Now, all of it was unraveling in reverse like a poison timeline. I opened a new Google Doc and titled it, "The List of Lies." Every memory, every suspicion, every time she changed her lock screen, every time she turned her phone face down, every fake smile, every weird perfume that wasn't hers, every lunch that turned into dinner, every "I love you" that felt a little too empty. It added up. I scrolled through the footage again. There was a moment, just a second, where Jessica stood in the hallway after Tyler left. She looked around, like she was checking if someone saw her. Then she smiled. Not a guilty smile. A proud one. That was the crack. That was when something inside me turned off. Love? Gone. Respect? Vaporized. And somehow, that made me feel free. But I wasn't going to just move on. Not yet. First, I wanted her to feel it. So I started with her job. I didn't just send the video to her personal email. I sent it to the firm's anonymous tip line too, with a message. Caught on camera having an affair with a known con artist. On company time. Using marital funds. Thought you'd want to know. Then I sent the same clip to her boss's assistant, a woman named Claire, who once told me Jessica gave off bad vibes. Next target? Tyler. I needed to know more. Not just the flashy persona, but who he really was underneath the Instagram filters and the teeth-whitened grin. So I hired a guy, a friend of a friend, Mason, who worked IT security for private firms. He owed me a favor. "I want everything you can legally dig up on Tyler Carter," I said. "And maybe a little extra." "Say less," Mason grinned. "I'll have something in 48 hours. And boy, did he deliver. Tyler wasn't rich. He was drowning in debt. 3 maxed-out credit cards. A defaulted lease in LA. A pending lawsuit from a former investor. Even worse, he had 2 restraining orders filed by exes. One of them accused him of threats. Another claimed he used her to finance his failed clothing line. The dude was a walking red flag parade, and Jessica had bet everything on him. I sent her the report. No message, just the truth. She responded 2 minutes later. "What is this? Why are you doing this? Are you stalking me now?" No remorse. No apology. Just deflection. Classic Jessica. So I sent her one more message. "You picked a clown. Enjoy the circus." Then I blocked her. For real this time. But the real satisfaction came later that evening. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Claire, the assistant from Jessica's office. "Hey, just wanted to let you know. Jessica won't be working with us anymore. We have policies. And you're not the first complaint we've had, by the way." She laughed a little. "Oh, and tell her next time, maybe don't cheat with someone who used to run MLM scams in Arizona. It's a small world." Click. That was it. Her job? Gone. Her image? Cracked. And I had just gotten started. She tried to ruin my life quietly. So I returned the favor loudly. And trust me, the loudest part was yet to come. Jessica had always been the type to play the victim, even when caught red-handed. I knew she wouldn't take her downfall quietly. She'd spin it, twist it, and try to crawl her way back into sympathy. And she did. 2 days after she lost her job, she showed up at my doorstep. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, tight dress, crocodile tears loaded and ready. I didn't open the door. I just watched from the window. She stood there with that same look she used to give me when she wanted something. The soft eyes, the pout, the tilted head. I remembered how that look used to melt me. Now, it made me want to set the house on fire. She rang the bell. Knocked. Waited. Then, just like I expected, she pulled out her phone. Within minutes, I got a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry. I messed up. Please talk to me. Then another. It wasn't real with him. I was just confused. Can we meet? Then one more. I need you. Please. I didn't answer. Instead, I recorded everything. Her standing there. Her texting. Her fake tears. Because I knew exactly what she was about to try, and I was 3 steps ahead. The next day, I went to the storage unit I had rented a week earlier. Inside were all the things she'd left behind. Shoes, bags, expensive crap I'd bought over the years. I laid it all out, took pictures of every item, and listed it on Facebook Marketplace. Everything. Designer heels, $30. Michael Kors purse, $20. Limited edition perfume she loved, free. Smells like betrayal. It took less than 2 hours for half the stuff to be gone. Then, I sent her one last text from a burner number. I'm hosting an estate sale. Thought you might want to stop by? Oh wait, you already moved out, didn't you? No reply. But I could imagine her face. That twitch in her jaw. That fire in her eyes when she lost control. She hated losing control more than anything. So I gave her one last thing to chase, hope. I made it look like I was crumbling. Posted a few vague quotes online like, sometimes, silence is the loudest scream. The kind of crap she'd eat up. And like clockwork, she bit. Jessica messaged me from a new Instagram account. I see you're hurting. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to break us. Let's just talk. There it was. The trap was set. I agreed to meet. Neutral place, open cafe, public. She showed up looking like a movie star on trial. I came in casual, calm, unreadable. She tried to smile, but it cracked at the edges. I miss you, she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled it back like it was poison. Why? I asked. Because I realized none of it was worth it. I leaned in slightly. But it was worth it when you were sleeping in my bed with another man. She flinched. I made a mistake. No, I cut her off. You made 100. And now I'm going to give you one chance to make it right. She blinked. Hope rising. You're going to sign a document. A formal declaration that you forfeited all claims to the apartment, finances, and any shared assets due to infidelity. Her mouth dropped open. Are you serious? Deadly. I'm not signing that. Then I released the rest of the footage. Her mouth snapped shut. See, I had edited all those hallway camera clips into a beautiful little documentary called The Fall of Jessica Lange. Timestamped. Labeled. Background music. I even added slow motion to the part where she kissed Tyler goodbye in my bathrobe. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. She stared at it. Torn. I'll ruin you, she whispered. I smiled. You already tried. Now it's my turn. She signed. No lawyer. No fight. Just one scorned woman finally realizing she'd lost to someone who had nothing left to lose. She got up, heels clicking, eyes wet, but not from regret. From fear. And as I watched her walk away, I whispered to myself. Next up, Tyler. I knew Tyler wasn't the type to lay low. Guys like him, narcissists wrapped in Gucci knockoffs, always come up for air, especially when they think they've won. And that made him easy to track. His latest post showed him lounging on a rooftop with a drink in hand, captioned, "Some people break, others build. I'm a builder." Funny, considering he was living in a short-term Airbnb he didn't even pay for. Jessica's card was still tied to it. She never changed her Apple Pay. So, I did the most disrespectful thing I could think of. I ordered a pizza to his Airbnb. But not just any pizza. A $75 one, loaded with the spiciest toppings known to mankind. Garlic crust, triple anchovies. And I used the note section to write. Thought you might be hungry after ruining lives. Extra salty, just like your future. Then I sent one more message through an anonymous texting app. You're not safe, Tyler. You never were. And I know more than you think. He didn't respond. But I got what I wanted. Silence. Radio silence from a guy who usually posted 5 times a day. The man was shook. Mason, my tech contact, pulled through again. Turns out Tyler had a bunch of burner phones tied to different fake businesses. One of them was flagged in a local police database for fraudulent e-commerce. Another red flag. So I filed a report. Nothing big. Just enough to nudge the feds. I even included screenshots of his business ventures, a few reviews from pissed-off customers, and a timeline of payments traced through Jessica's account. I wasn't going for jail. I was going for pressure. Let him feel hunted. Let him wonder who was watching. And while I waited, I took the next step, the final nail. I contacted Camila, one of Tyler's exes, the one who had filed the restraining order against him 2 years prior. I messaged her with proof. His new location, screenshots of him using Jessica to finance his lifestyle, and a voice recording of Jessica saying, "Tyler promised me I'd never have to work again." Camila called me. At first, she was skeptical. Then she saw the receipts. "Oh my God," she said. "He's doing it again." Her voice trembled, not out of fear, but rage. "We're getting that bastard this time," she whispered. I had found my ally. Together, we crafted a formal report with her previous statements, updated evidence, and Tyler's most recent scams. She had contacts in local law enforcement who still remembered the case. It moved fast. Within a week, Tyler was under investigation for wire fraud and identity manipulation. But that's not the best part. Jessica didn't know any of this was happening. She was still holed up in her sister's basement, trying to clean up her image online, posting fake inspirational quotes and acting like she was healing. Meanwhile, her boy toy was drowning. And then came the final blow. I waited until the investigation officially opened, when Tyler's accounts got frozen and the subpoenas started flying, to send Jessica one more anonymous package. Inside, a USB with every photo of Tyler cheating on her. Because, of course, he wasn't just using her. He was sleeping with 2 other women the whole time. Different states. Same sweet lies. Along with it, a printed message. "You betrayed a man who would have died for you, for a con artist who never even looked you in the eye while lying. Guess you two really were a perfect match." That night, Jessica tried to call me again. I didn't pick up. She messaged from a new number. "He used me. You were right. Please talk to me." I just sent one emoji back and blocked her. She chose her battlefield. I simply made sure she got buried in it. Just when I thought it was over, the universe threw me one more curveball, and this time, it was personal. A week after Tyler vanished from social media and the investigation went public, I got a letter in the mail. Not an email, not a text, a letter. Handwritten, no return address. I opened it, expecting more empty apologies or maybe some desperate cry from Jessica's family. But it wasn't from her. It was from Ashley, Jessica's best friend, the one who was supposedly always out of town during her girl trips. The letter began like this. "You don't know me that well, but I know everything. I should have come to you earlier, but Jess made threats. She told me if I ever talked, she'd drag me down with her. I can't keep this inside anymore. You deserve the truth." My eyes narrowed. I kept reading. "Jessica was cheating on you long before Tyler. He wasn't the first. He wasn't even the worst. She had another guy, a married one. His name's Connor. They met at her law firm. That's why she fought so hard to work late. And guess what? His wife found out, threatened to expose them. That's why Jess jumped to Tyler. She needed an out." I stopped reading for a second. So the whole love story with Tyler? It wasn't even real. He was just her exit plan when the first affair imploded. I felt sick. Not because it hurt anymore. That pain was long gone. But because I realized I had been living with a stranger for 3 years. A well-dressed, well-practiced manipulator who switched men like outfits. The letter continued. "Also, I'm sorry to say this, but remember your anniversary weekend last year when Jess said her mom was in the hospital? That was a lie. She was in Vegas with Connor. I helped cover for her. I'm not proud of it. She used me, too. That weekend. I remembered it clearly. I stayed up 2 nights straight working on a project, feeling guilty she was dealing with family stuff. And she was in Vegas, blowing kisses at another man. And I had no clue. Until now. By the end of the letter, Ashley offered to meet and talk if I wanted more answers. She included a burner number. I didn't call. I didn't need to. I already knew what I had to do. She didn't just cheat. She orchestrated her entire life around deception, lied to me, to her job, to her friends, even to her lovers. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about who she was at her core. So I took it one step further. I sent Ashley's letter, anonymously, to Jessica's father, a man who once gave a toast at our engagement party and told me, "She's intense, but she's loyal." Loyal? Yeah, right. I never heard back from him. But a few days later, Jessica messaged me again from another new number. "What the hell did you send to my dad? He's cut me off. My family won't even talk to me now. Are you proud of yourself?" I replied with one word. Finally. Then I blocked her for the last time. That same evening, I got a call from Mason. "Hey man," he said, a weird tone in his voice. You're gonna want to hear this. What is it? They picked up Tyler. Wait, what? For the fraud? Yeah. But get this, he folded instantly. Gave up names, details, everything. And your ex? Jessica? She's now being looked at for accessory to financial crime. I froze. It was poetic. She didn't just ruin her life. She signed herself into a downfall she thought she could flirt her way out of. And now the walls were closing in. But me? I was already gone. I booked a one-way flight that night. No social media. No forwarding address. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had freedom. 3 weeks. That's how long I'd been gone. A different city, different phone, different name on the lease. No connections. No reminders. And most importantly, no Jessica. I'd wake up with no gut-twisting texts, no fake apologies, no social media breadcrumbs leading back to her circus. Just quiet. Real quiet. The kind you feel in your bones when you're finally free. Then, one morning, I got a message from Mason. He was supposed to delete my old account traces, bank activity, forwarding addresses, anything she might use to find me. But he couldn't resist sending this one last gem. It was a screenshot of a news report. Local woman under investigation in fraud ring connected to former law firm employee Tyler Carter. Her photo was right there, looking nothing like the flawless version she used to post. No filters, no edits. Just a raw mugshot with smeared eyeliner and that same arrogant glare, now empty. I laughed. Not a petty chuckle. A full-on, belly-deep laugh that made my neighbors probably think I was losing it. She had lied her way into every room, manipulated everyone she touched. And now the spotlight she craved had become a noose. The article detailed how Tyler had given her name during the fraud investigation, claimed she knew everything, and was managing payments through her personal cards. Whether that was true or not didn't matter. The feds thought it might be, and that was enough to freeze her assets and subpoena her records. Mason added, "Guess who's now applying for legal aid? She's broke. Her family's cut her off. No place to stay. Apparently couch surfing with some girl she once bullied in college." Poetic, huh? Damn right it was. But I wasn't done yet. Because I had one final card to play. You see, before I left town, I visited one more person, Jessica's boss, the senior partner at her law firm, Mr. Reynolds. The man who gave her a glowing referral even after she left. I showed him everything. The footage, the letter from Ashley, the financial links to Tyler. I made it clear, she wasn't just a liability. She was a ticking bomb with the firm's name still echoing behind her. He didn't say a word, just stared at the USB I handed him like it was radioactive. And now, word on the street was Reynolds had passed that info up the chain. Jessica wasn't just losing her freedom. She was being blacklisted from every legal firm in the state. No more rebuilding. No more fresh starts. She'd spend the rest of her life haunted by what she did. And that was enough. I didn't want her in jail. I didn't want to destroy her future just to say I could. I wanted something colder. Irrelevance. She used to walk into every room like she owned it. Now, she'd be lucky to rent a one-bedroom with peeling paint and neighbors who didn't care who she used to be. I didn't respond to any of the texts Mason forwarded from her new number. Not, "Can we please just talk?" Not, "You don't understand what Tyler did to me." And definitely not, "You ruined everything." Because I didn't ruin her. She did that all by herself. All I did was pull back the curtain, let her stand in the light, and watch everything she built on lies collapse. Meanwhile, I was sipping black coffee in a city where no one knew my name. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Something she used to roll her eyes at and call a waste of time. Now it was therapy, and for the first time in years, my hands weren't shaking. My smile wasn't fake, and my phone, silent. She could scream into the void all she wanted. She could blame Tyler, me, her dad, the weather, whatever helped her sleep. But the truth? The truth was, she never loved anyone, not even herself. And now she had nothing left to betray. Only one part of the story remained. The goodbye? The message came on a cold Thursday morning, just as I stepped into the little coffee shop I now called my sanctuary. It wasn't from Jessica. It wasn't from Mason. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but the tone was unmistakable. "I'm in your city. I need to talk. Please." I stared at it for a full minute, half a dozen thoughts racing through my head. I had deleted every trace of my new life. No social media, no LinkedIn, no forwarding info. I hadn't even told my closest friends where I'd gone. But she found me. Of course she did. Jessica was like a virus, lingering, morphing, always adapting. She must have pulled the string on someone, somewhere. Or maybe she had followed Mason's trail. Didn't matter. What mattered was what she wanted now. I didn't respond. But I didn't delete it either. The part of me that once loved her, the fool who believed in her smiles, who built a life around her lies, needed to see her one last time. Not to forgive. Not to reconcile. Just to finish it. I chose the location carefully, a quiet public park on the edge of the city. Broad daylight. No drama. No stage for a performance. I waited on the bench overlooking a frozen pond, hands in my coat pockets, watching the sky turn steel gray. And then she appeared. Not with her usual strut. Not in heels. She looked worn. Hollow. Like a candle that had burned too fast and too hot. Her eyes scanned the park until they landed on me. She approached slowly, like she wasn't sure I'd stay. I didn't move. She sat beside me, leaving a gap between us. For once, she didn't speak first. She just sat there, breathing. Finally, I broke the silence. What do you want? Her voice cracked. Closure. I let out a laugh, dry and sharp. You want closure? After what you did. I know I ruined everything, she whispered. Tyler, the money, the lies. I lost control. No. I cut in, turning to face her. You never lost control. You gave it away, one lie at a time. You chose Tyler. You chose every moment you betrayed me. You weren't lost, Jessica. You were just selfish. She looked down at her hands, now shaking. I'm not asking for you to forgive me. I wanted you to see that I'm not the same person. You are, I said. But now, the mask is gone. That's the only difference. Tears welled in her eyes. Real ones, maybe. But I didn't care anymore. That part of me, the part that used to ache at her pain, was dead. I lost everything, she said. My job, my family, my friends. You didn't lose it, I replied coldly. You burned it down. She nodded slowly, as if she'd been waiting to hear those words. Then she pulled something from her coat. A folded piece of paper. I wrote you something, she said. You don't have to read it. Just take it. I didn't move. She placed it on the bench between us, stood up, and stepped back. For a moment, I thought she might say something else. Instead, she looked at me with a strange softness. I did love you, she whispered. And then she turned and walked away. I let her go. Didn't call after her. Didn't touch the letter. I sat there for a while longer, watching the wind ripple across the icy surface of the water. Then I stood up, left the letter untouched, and walked away without looking back. Some doors don't need to be slammed. They just need to stay closed. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't justice. This was release. I had finally let her go, not because she deserved it, but because I did. Get out of the house. It's mine now, he said, standing there like he owned the place. My robe. My whiskey. My wife. And not just standing smirking. His name? Tyler. The kind of guy who probably flexes in mirrors at gas stations and thinks a six-pack gives him permission to steal another man's life. I didn't blink. Just stepped closer. The air was heavy, like the calm before a hurricane. I stared him down and said, pack your stuff, sign my papers, take her, and move to Morocco to live your dream, or stay here, and I'll make sure you both regret it. He hesitated. She didn't. Madison, my wife of 6 years, didn't even flinch. She just sat on the couch, legs crossed, her lips curled into that smug little smile she thought made her look superior. That's when I knew. She was gone. Not physically, she was still there, dressed like a teenager going to Coachella, but the woman I married had been replaced by this cold, calculating brat with no soul behind her eyes. The door slammed behind me, my hand did that. I didn't wait for a reaction. I knew the sound would echo through their heads for days. But what I did next, that's where this story begins. Rewind. 2 weeks earlier. The first crack in the illusion. It was a Tuesday. She never wore perfume on Tuesdays. Said it was her reset day. But that morning, as she brushed past me in the kitchen, I caught a whiff of something floral and expensive. Not just perfume, new perfume. The kind that says, notice me. Want me. New scent. I asked casually, watching her pour almond milk into her smoothie like she wasn't hiding something behind those fake lashes. She didn't even pause. Sample from a coworker. Nothing serious. And then she kissed me on the cheek, quick, mechanical, and walked out the door. Except, her office was in the opposite direction. I followed. Not like a creep, like a man with instincts that had been numb for too long and suddenly screamed awake. She didn't drive to the agency where she worked in HR. She drove past it, all the way across town, to some high-rise condo building I'd never seen before. She went inside and didn't come out for 3 hours. 3 hours. On a workday. In heels she never wore for me. That night, she came home and told me traffic was brutal and that her boss was riding her all afternoon. The way she said it made me flinch. Something in her tone, cold, careless, like she enjoyed lying to me. I didn't say a word, just nodded. But inside, my stomach turned with a sick clarity. I was sleeping next to a stranger. The next few days were a slow drip of poison. Her phone never left her hand. She'd turn it over any time I walked by. Rookie move. I stopped trying to talk to her. Every sentence out of her mouth was either a complaint, a deflection, or some passive-aggressive dig. I could take the silence. It was the disrespect that burned. And then came the photo. Friday, 3:14 p.m. My buddy Nathan, works in real estate, texts me. Nathan, yo, I think I just saw your wife. Wasn't she supposed to be in Chicago this weekend? Attached was a photo. Not grainy. Not accidental. Clear as daylight. Madison, sitting outside a rooftop bar. Red dress. Leaning into a guy. Laughing with her head thrown back. Her hand on his chest. His hand on her thigh. Tyler. I didn't need confirmation. I didn't even need a name. The look in her eyes was enough. That look used to be for me. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the minutes tick by. I heard the garage door open at 2:08 a.m., heard her heels click down the hallway. She slipped into bed like nothing happened. Did you have fun in Chicago? I asked. A pause. Long enough to hang herself. It was, yeah, quiet. Needed that. Then she turned her back to me. I stared at the ceiling for hours. She didn't know what was coming. The confrontation happened 2 days later. I came home early. Door unlocked. Voices upstairs. Laughter. Her laugh, that same damn laugh from the rooftop photo. I walked up slowly. Each step felt like a countdown to something I'd never come back from. And there he was. Tyler. Wearing my robe. Drinking my Glenlivet. Speaking in my bedroom. And Madison? She didn't even look shocked. Just said, you weren't supposed to be home until 6. As if I was inconveniencing her affair. That's when he said it. Get out of the house, it's mine now. He didn't expect the smile that spread across my face. Because that was the moment I stopped being the fool and started writing the rest of this story. I said what I said. And slammed the door. But it wasn't over. What I did next would tear their world apart. I didn't go far. Just sat in my car, parked 2 houses down, engine off, phone in hand, and the silence pounding like war drums in my ears. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage that had finally crystallized into purpose. Madison thought this was over. That I'd just walk away, take my bruised pride, and disappear. She didn't know me. Not the real me. The man behind the calm voice, the one who stayed silent while she lied to my face. That man had died the moment Tyler slipped into my robe. I stared at the front of the house. My house. And suddenly, I wasn't heartbroken. I was cold. It started with the phone call. I dialed Tony. My cousin. Works in private security, the type of guy who doesn't ask why, just how soon. Tony. I need cameras out of the house. Full system disabled. Don't ask questions. Done, he said. You good? I will be. Next call, my lawyer. We talked once before, just a consultation, back when things were weird, but not imploding. I'd asked about prenups. She laughed when I brought it up, said it was a rich guy's fantasy. Turns out I should have fought harder for that. Brandon, my lawyer said. You sure you want to go nuclear? I looked at the house again, their shadows flickering through the blinds. I'm already pushing the button. I waited until nightfall. Madison texted me once around 9 p.m. Madison, you're being dramatic. Come get your stuff tomorrow. Tyler's staying a few nights. My jaw clenched. She wasn't even pretending to apologize. She was marking territory. Like this wasn't just cheating, it was a hostile takeover. So I made my move. I still had the garage code. They hadn't changed it. Amateurs. I entered through the back door. Quiet. Swift. And with a small black bag in hand. The bedroom was empty. Good. Downstairs, their laughter echoed. Watching Netflix, eating my snacks, sinking into my leather couch like they belonged there. I planted one camera behind the lamp on the dresser. Another inside the fake air vent I'd installed years ago during renovations. The last one, a tiny button-sized lens under the kitchen island. Motion sensitive. Audio enabled. Sync straight to my cloud. Before leaving, I walked into the closet. Half of it was still mine. I grabbed only one thing, the box. Inside was a sealed manila envelope with receipts, printouts, screenshots. A file I'd been building the past week. Everything from hotel bookings to suggestive texts she thought she'd deleted. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to document. Let her laugh now. The next morning, I sent her a message. Me, house transfer papers are coming today. I suggest you start packing. No reply. Of course not. She'd probably throw it in Tyler's face, expecting me to beg or crawl back. But when the documents arrived, couriered, signed, timestamped, I knew it would rattle her. These weren't empty threats. I wasn't bluffing. By afternoon, she called. No, hi. Just, are you serious with this divorce crap? I've never been more serious. You're overreacting. It was just a phase. I wasn't thinking clearly. Funny, I said. You looked very clear in those rooftop pictures. Silence. Then, what else do you have? There it was, the crack. The fear. She wasn't sorry, she was worried. I smiled. Enough to make you wish you'd never touched him. And I hung up. That night, I watched them live on my phone screen. Tyler pacing. Madison yelling. She threw a pillow. He threw back a whiskey glass. It shattered. Perfect. I clipped the footage. Saved it. Filed it under Chapter 2. Because this story? It wasn't ending in heartbreak. It was just getting started. By the third night, watching them became routine, like a twisted Netflix series where I already knew the ending. But the slow unravel was the real thrill. They weren't lovers anymore. Not really. The tension was thick. Madison paced the hallway like a caged animal. Tyler had that nervous energy of a man who realized too late he'd walked into a trap. He wasn't wearing my robe anymore. The robe was in the trash bin on the driveway. I saw it that morning when I drove past with sunglasses and a baseball cap. It was stained with what looked like coffee and ash, like they tried to burn it and gave up halfway. That was Madison. Start chaos, lose interest halfway, then blame someone else for the mess. She texted me again that night. Madison, you're enjoying this, aren't you? Me, I'm watching art in motion. No reply. Saturday afternoon, I sent the photos to her father. No words, no explanation, just the images of her with Tyler, the rooftop, the hallway kiss, the hotel check-in log. Let him process it without my commentary. Madison once told me her dad worshipped her. Time to test that. 2 hours later, he called. Brandon, what the hell is this? Truth. Is this recent? 3 weeks ago. While she was in Chicago. Silence. Then he said something that hit harder than I expected. She used to be better than this. That sentence stuck with me all night. Used to be. I wondered how long she'd been slipping. How long I'd been blind. Or maybe she was never what I thought. Maybe she just wore a better mask before. Sunday morning. Church bells in the distance. Madison used to go. She stopped when she met Tyler. Said it made her feel judged. I checked the footage. They were fighting again. She threw a glass of orange juice at him. It hit the wall and dripped like blood down the white paint. He shouted something about her being ungrateful. She said, "You're just a toy I got bored of." I paused the video. Sat in silence. That sentence, it hit too close. That was me once. I called Tony again. Need another favor, I said. Same house. Yeah. This time, I want the locks changed. While they're out, you'll have a tower window. I'll get you the schedule. Madison still used our old calendar app. She never removed my access. Rookie mistake number 5. Monday at 3 p.m., they had a brunch with Jessica scheduled. Jessica didn't exist. That was her code for spa and wine with Tyler. Perfect window. I coordinated with Tony. About the locksmith. Paid cash. Silent, clean, legal. At 4:45 p.m., I received a call. Unknown number. I picked up. What the hell did you do? Madison screamed. Oh, I said calmly. I believe the term is changing the locks. Owners do that sometimes. You can't just lock us out. I can. And I did. Everything in that house, the deed, the bills, the title, is in my name. You don't live there anymore, sweetheart. Tyler took the phone. You psycho, we'll sue. You're welcome to try. But while you're at it, tell me, how's Morocco looking this time of year? He went silent. I hung up. I knew it was petty. I knew it was vengeance. And I didn't care. That house wasn't just brick and wood. It was 6 years of sacrifice, of swallowing insults, of late nights waiting for her to come home and pretending I didn't smell cologne that wasn't mine. Now it was my stage. And I was taking back the script. That night, I left an envelope on the doorstep. Inside, the key to the guest house 3 blocks away. The same place Madison once called too small for someone like me. A sticky note on top. Stay there. ? Quietly. Sign the divorce. No drama. Or I release everything. I didn't need revenge. I needed freedom. And I was almost there. Madison always had this way of turning every conversation into a performance. She could look you in the eye, smile, and lie through her teeth like she was reading from a script she wrote in her sleep. And I used to fall for it. Every damn time. But not anymore. I waited 3 days. No calls. No texts. Silence. It was the kind of silence that screams louder than shouting, a calm before another betrayal. I knew her too well to think she'd give up. Madison wasn't wired that way. If she couldn't win the war, she'd try to burn the whole battlefield. And right on cue, she showed up at my office on Thursday, wearing a tight black dress like it was still her weapon. Hair curled, makeup perfect, smile painted across her face like nothing ever happened. My assistant buzzed me. There's a Madison here to see you. Says it's urgent. I cracked my knuckles, leaned back, and said, send her in. She walked in like she owned the building. I just want to talk, she said, her voice soft, her eyes watery, the kind of performance that would have broken me 2 months ago. I didn't even blink. You've got 5 minutes. She sat down, crossed her legs, and began the act. I made a mistake. I know I hurt you. But Tyler doesn't mean anything. I was lost. I felt ignored. I didn't know how to say it. I raised a hand. Stop. She froze. Let's skip the script, I said. Because I've read this one before. And the ending sucks. She dropped the fake sadness immediately. Face tightened. Eyes narrowed. You think you're the victim? You were never around. You buried yourself in work. I was lonely. Tyler listened. Tyler wanted what he couldn't earn, I said calmly. And you gave it to him on a silver plate. She scoffed. You're not perfect. Don't act like you are. I stood up slowly. Walked to the door. Held it open. Madison, you didn't just cheat. You betrayed. That's worse. That's deeper. Her voice cracked. But this time, it wasn't acting. What do you want from me? I looked her in the eye. Honesty. And you're fresh out. She left in silence. That night, I watched the guest house footage. She was crying. Real tears. Tyler wasn't there. She'd thrown a picture frame. It cracked against the wall, a photo of us in Santorini from 5 years ago. I remember that trip. I carried her down marble stairs because her heels broke. She called it the most romantic thing I ever did. Now it was shattered glass. I should have felt something. Instead, I poured a drink, turned off the screen, and let the silence surround me. 2 days later, she tried again. This time, a letter, handwritten. Left in my mailbox, no stamp. It was long. 6 pages. Rambling. Half apology, half blame shifting. She wrote things like, I don't know when we stopped being us. I hated how cold you became. Tyler made me feel seen. But the part that stuck with me? I didn't think you'd actually let me go. That told me everything I needed to know. Madison didn't love me. She loved the version of me that forgave her lies. The version who ignored the lipstick stains on receipts, the late nights, the perfume. She loved control. And I had taken it away. Monday morning, I filed the final divorce documents. Everything was ready. Split down the middle. She got the car she adored. I kept the house. No alimony. No second chances. I emailed her. Papers filed. Sign or face exposure. Your choice. An hour later, she replied. You win. But she was wrong. This wasn't about winning. It was about freedom. And for the first time in 6 years, I was finally breathing clean air again. By Tuesday, the papers were signed. I didn't have to see her. Didn't want to. Her signature arrived as a PDF in my inbox, neat and cold, like she was just closing a subscription, not 6 years of marriage. There was no, I'm sorry, no final words, no handwritten note tucked into the envelope. Just her name at the bottom, in that sharp cursive I used to trace with my finger while she slept. I stared at it for a minute, longer than I should have. Then hit download, saved it under a folder called Freedom, and deleted the email without blinking. It was over. Legally, at least. Emotionally, that was a different battlefield entirely. Wednesday night, I found myself sitting alone at the same bar where we had our first real date. It wasn't planned. I just ended up there, like muscle memory took over the steering wheel. The bartender didn't recognize me. Too many years, too many changed lines on my face. But I remembered that booth in the corner. I remembered Madison laughing at a dumb joke I told about office printers. I remembered her hand on mine, the way she played with the sleeve of my jacket like she didn't want to let go. Back then, she looked at me like I was the only man in the world. Now she looked at me like I was an obstacle. I ordered 2 whiskeys. One for me, one for the ghost. And I drank both. The days that followed were weird. Not painful, not peaceful, just strange. I'd wake up expecting her side of the bed to be messy. It wasn't. I kept it clean now. I'd reach for the toothpaste and remember she hated when I squeezed from the middle. Now I did it on purpose. Little rebellions. Her clothes were gone. Her scent was fading. But the silence, that stayed. I filled it with music. Podcasts. The occasional TV show I never had time to watch. But nothing filled the space. You know, the kind, that heavy, invisible space where someone used to be. Then came the text. Tyler, we're done. She's all yours again. Just like that. I stared at the screen, laughed out loud, tossed my phone on the couch and poured myself a drink. She burned her bridge, and he left her in the ashes. Not my problem anymore. But here's the thing. As much as I told myself I didn't care, part of me did. Not for her. For the truth. I needed to know why him. Tyler was everything she claimed to hate. Flashy. Broke. A walking cliché. I was the one who worked late so she could quit her job. I paid for her mother's surgery. I stayed loyal even when she gave me every reason not to. So I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Brandon, I want one thing, I said. Truth. One sentence. Why him? Silence. Then, softly, because he made me feel dangerous. And I wanted to hurt you. It hit harder than I expected. Not because she said it. Because it felt true. She didn't cheat for love. She cheated for power. For the thrill of shattering something good just to see what it sounded like. I said nothing. Just hung up. That night, I opened the Santorini photo. The one she'd smashed against the wall. I scanned our faces. She was already fading in mine. But I looked happy. Whole. That man was still in there, buried under betrayal, waiting for his chance to resurface. And now that the wreckage was cleared, he could finally breathe again. I wasn't healing for her. I was healing despite her. The truth had its own kind of sting. Because he made me feel dangerous. And I wanted to hurt you. Those words didn't just sit with me, they dug in. Not like a knife. Knives are quick, clean. This was slower. Like rust spreading under paint, eating away at something you thought was solid. She wanted to hurt me. Not because I did something wrong. Not because I failed her. But because I made her feel safe, and to someone like Madison, safety meant boredom. By Friday, I started sleeping through the night again. No dreams. No midnight jolts with sweat-soaked sheets. Just silence. And waking up to myself. That might sound like nothing, but after months of suspicion, months of forcing smiles through gritted teeth, waking up alone felt like peace. The guest house? She moved out. Left it trashed. Empty wine bottles. Burned out candles. One of my shirts, crumpled on the floor like a discarded souvenir from a life she never appreciated. Tony called me that morning. She's out. You want me to clean it or burn it? Clean it, I said. Let the fire be symbolic. A week passed. Then 2. No contact. No calls. No desperate messages. No fake apologies wrapped in nostalgia. She was either licking her wounds or lighting someone else's world on fire. I didn't care. Well, mostly. Because just when I thought it was all behind me, Madison found one last way to spit in my face. I was at the gym when I got the email. Subject line, request for testimonial, new hire background. I almost deleted it until I saw the name. Tyler Grant. She gave him a job. Not just any job, my job. At my old partner's firm. She convinced someone to bring him in as a junior consultant. The same guy who stood in my living room wearing my robe, now listed as a rising analytical talent. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the weights. She didn't just cheat and lie. Now she was repackaging her boy toy as a success story. Trying to ride his half-naked ambition into respectability. I forwarded the email to my friend at the firm, Dave. Tyler Grant? You serious? Dave called me 30 minutes later. Dude, I had no idea. I thought he was just some intern with good references. He's already messed up 2 client calls. Yeah, I said. That's about his speed. Want me to pull the plug? I hesitated. I had the power, but I didn't need revenge anymore. Let him hang himself, I said. Just make sure he's on speakerphone when he does. But Madison? She wasn't done. Saturday evening, I got a knock on the door. There she was. No makeup. Hair tied back. Holding a shoebox. What is it? I asked. She handed it to me. Just stuff I found. Yours. I opened it right there on the porch. Inside, An old watch, my cufflinks, a Polaroid from our anniversary, a tie she used to call Mike closer. And one more thing. A necklace I bought her on our 3rd year. The one she said she'd never take off. Thought it was yours, she said. It was. Until you gave it back. I didn't invite her in. I didn't ask how she was doing. I just stood there. You okay? She asked finally. I met her eyes. I'm getting there. She nodded. Well, I hope he makes you happy. He's me, I said. Just without you. She didn't reply. Just walked off into the dark, the sound of her heels disappearing down the street. That night, I didn't cry. Didn't scream. Didn't pour a drink. I sat with the box on my lap, watching an old movie we both loved, but she always talked through. This time, I heard every word. Because the silence wasn't empty anymore. It was earned. Sunday morning brought rain, not the light kind that taps windows gently, but the kind that pounds rooftops and soaks through everything. A fitting backdrop for what I did next. I took the box Madison gave me, the watch, the cufflinks, the photos, the tie, the necklace, and drove up to Pine Hill. It was the place we once talked about buying land on, back when dreams still came with "we" attached. She wanted a garden. I wanted silence. Now, all that was left was mud and wind. I brought a shovel. Call it symbolic. Call it crazy. But I dug a hole, just deep enough to swallow memories, and laid every item in, one by one. The watch? Tickless. The cufflinks? Dull. The tie? Wrinkled. The photo? Smiling liars. The necklace? Cold. And then, I set them on fire. The flame struggled in the rain, but it caught, enough to melt, to blacken, to destroy what used to mean everything. I stood there, hoodie soaked, arms folded, eyes dry. I didn't burn them because I hated her. I burned them because I loved her. And I couldn't afford to anymore. On my way down the hill, I got a message from her best friend, Claire. Of all people, Claire had stayed quiet through everything, loyal to Madison to a fault. But this time, she broke protocol. Claire, I know it's none of my business, but I thought you should know she's been telling people you abused her emotionally. I pulled over. Read the message again. Then again. Abuse? The word echoed in my skull like a gunshot. That's what she was spreading now? After everything? After the lies, the betrayal, the invasion of my home? She was rewriting history, painting me as the villain so she wouldn't have to face her own reflection. I called Claire. Is she serious? Claire sounded tired. Brandon, she's spiraling. She's not the same. She's never been, I said. I just refused to see it. Claire paused. I didn't want to believe it either. But she's lost. Whatever light she had is gone. I'm not surprised, I said. Just disappointed. I'm sorry. Don't be. You told me. That counts. That night, I sat at my desk, opened a blank document, and I started writing. Not a revenge post. Not a rant. Just the truth. What it felt like. What it cost me. How it crept in slowly. How love didn't die in a day, but in 1,000 ignored details. I wrote for hours. Poured out every cut she left on my soul. I didn't hold back. But I didn't hate, either. By the time I was done, it was 4 a.m. And I felt lighter. I never published it. Never shared it. It wasn't for the world. It was for me. To reclaim the story before someone else painted it with their poison. The following week, I got the call from Dave again. Tyler's out, he said. Messed up the Jenkins account. Tried to blame the secretary. HR said he was late 4 times this week. Fired this morning. I let out a breath. Not satisfaction. Just closure. Guess that Morocco dream's still on hold, I said. Dave laughed. Probably applying to reality shows now. Hope he wins. Funny thing about healing, it doesn't come in big moments. It sneaks in when you're not looking. Like when you laugh at a stupid commercial. Or when you sleep through the night without checking your phone. Or when you delete her number without flinching. I wasn't bitter. I was better. And tomorrow? Tomorrow was mine again. 2 months had passed since everything fell apart. It wasn't the closure I expected. It wasn't the grand, dramatic ending where everything clicked into place. Life didn't give you a nice, tidy bow when it decided to rip your world apart. But I was starting to realize that wasn't the point. The point was that I was still here. Still standing. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe. I woke up to the sound of birds, not alarms. The sunlight crept through the blinds, casting long shadows across my apartment. A normal day. Not a normal day, but normal enough to feel like it could be the beginning of something new. Madison's absence no longer left an empty hole in the air. It wasn't like I'd forgotten her, no. But the spaces she used to fill with noise and chaos had become peaceful now. Quiet, but not hollow. There was room for me again. Room for what I wanted to become. Not who I was in relation to her, but who I was on my own. I still had moments when her ghost crept in. When I caught myself thinking about what went wrong, what I could have done differently, what it felt like to be lied to. But those moments became less frequent, less consuming. They weren't my moments anymore. They were just memories of a life that wasn't mine anymore. I spent most of my days reconfiguring my business. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about thriving. I hired a new team, a team I trusted, a team that knew how to execute, how to build. There were no more just surviving days. And I got my peace back in small things. Waking up at 6 a.m. because I wanted to, not because someone else's schedule dictated mine. Filling my fridge with food I liked. Watching TV shows without feeling like I had to justify them. Saying yes to spontaneous plans without overthinking. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting her back. It was about getting me back. One evening, as the city lit up beneath me, I stood on my balcony looking at the skyline. I remembered when I used to look at it with Madison and how she used to talk about everything we would do together. About the future we would build. I had believed her. I had believed in us. But belief wasn't enough. I wasn't naive anymore. And I wasn't going to be anyone's second choice or a stepping stone for their selfish needs. I'd spent too long being her anchor while she drifted away. Now, I was learning to sail alone. Then, out of nowhere, I got a text. Madison, I don't know if you'll read this, but I think about you. I think about how I ruined us. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel or what I'm supposed to do now. I just wanted you to know that I know I hurt you. And I'm sorry. I stared at it for a moment. I could feel the weight of her apology like a stone dropped into calm water. It didn't splash. It sank quietly. But I didn't respond. Not because I wasn't tempted. Not because I didn't care. But because I knew, after all this time, that some things didn't need to be answered. Some things were just too late. I had no ill will toward her. But I wasn't going to let her string me along anymore. I had been enough for her once. Now, I needed to be enough for me. I went to bed that night with a quiet smile. For the first time in what felt like forever, there was no darkness in my thoughts. No regret. No weight of what could have been. I had done the hard work, not to get back at her, not to punish her, but to rebuild myself. I was moving forward. I woke up the next morning, as I did every day now, knowing that today was a new opportunity. I wasn't stuck in the past anymore. I wasn't trapped by her lies or her absence. I had forged my own path, one where I controlled the steps I took, the way I moved, the way I grew. Life had a way of kicking you in the teeth and leaving you on your knees. But the real victory wasn't in how you fell, it was in how you got back up. And I was standing taller than ever before. Tomorrow was mine, and I was going to take it, one step at a time. I had just come back from a late shift, expecting nothing more than leftovers and a cold bed. Instead, I walked straight into a war zone. A man I'd never seen before was standing in my living room like he owned the place, buttoning up his shirt. He had the kind of grin that made your blood boil. And there she was, Emily, my wife, sitting on the armrest, legs crossed, robe wide open like she didn't give a damn. Then he said it. She belongs to me now. I'll do as I please with her, and you better keep your mouth shut if you want to stay safe. No stuttering. No hesitation. Like it was normal. Emily didn't even look guilty. She smirked. Smirked, like she was proud of it. I didn't blink. I picked up my phone, dialed a number I hoped I'd never have to use, and said just one thing. You've got 5 minutes to disappear before things get irreversible. That's when his face changed. And that's when I realized this wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a betrayal so deep it was rehearsed, planned. And I'd been the fool that he didn't leave. Not immediately, anyway. He stared at me like he was weighing the odds. And for a second, I saw something in his eyes, a flicker of doubt. Maybe it was the calm in my voice. Maybe he didn't expect me to stay composed. Either way, the silence hung like a knife between us. Emily stood up and walked toward me, barefoot, the hem of her robe brushing the floor. You're being childish, she said, like I just spilled milk on the carpet. You knew this wasn't working. She brushed past me like I was a coat rack. That moment, I realized something awful. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't even trying to lie her way out of it. She had made peace with betraying me. Probably made peace with it weeks ago. The guy, his name was Jordan, I later learned, finally scoffed and said, Your 5 minutes are up, man. I ain't afraid of your little threats. I didn't look at him. I just kept staring at Emily. What is this? I asked. My voice was steady, but inside, I was drowning. Is this revenge? Is it about that fight we had last month? Did I say something? Do something? She rolled her eyes. You really don't get it, do you? It's not about anything. I just don't want to be bored anymore. Bored, I repeated. Yeah, you used to be fun, Kyle. You had fire. Now? You come home tired. You eat your dinner in silence. You sleep like a rock. You barely touch me. I don't want to feel like I'm dying in a routine. That hit harder than I expected, because parts of it were true. I had been distant, focused on work, on making a life for us, not realizing she wanted something else, something reckless, something dirty. Jordan finally backed off and grabbed his coat. You got lucky tonight, he muttered on the way out, brushing his shoulder against mine. The door slammed. Just me and Emily now. The silence thickened. You cheated on me, I said, trying to say it like a statement. But it came out broken. Cracked. More than once, she said, folding her arms. I blinked. What? She looked me dead in the eye. This wasn't the first time, Kyle. And it won't be the last. I don't know how I kept standing. My knees felt like glass. Who are you? I whispered. The same woman you married. You just never bothered to really know me. The worst part? She believed that. Like her betrayal was my fault. I turned away, walked to the window. The city lights outside blurred into nothing. My reflection stared back at me, tired, older than I remembered, broken. She came up behind me, put a hand on my shoulder. Look, we can still figure this out. Maybe open the relationship? Maybe you need a little fun too. That's when I laughed. Not a real laugh. One of those laughs that sounds like it's hiding a scream. You're sick? I said, brushing her hand off. You let a stranger walk into our house and claim you like a trophy. She smiled. Exactly. A trophy. At least someone sees my worth. My jaw clenched. I wanted to scream, break something, but I didn't. I just turned to her, looked at her for who she really was. And for the first time in years, I saw her clearly. Not the girl I fell in love with. Not the woman I built dreams with. But a stranger in my house with sharp words, a cold soul, and a poisoned smile. And I knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a blink. Emily went to bed like nothing happened. Like she hadn't burned down everything we built with one careless match. I stayed on the couch, sitting in the dark, letting the silence scream into my ears. My phone was still in my hand. I stared at it for hours. Thought about calling my brother, Derek. He'd show up in 5 minutes with 2 baseball bats and a trunk full of bad ideas. But I didn't want violence. Not yet. I wanted the truth. And I knew I'd only scratched the surface. Around 3:30 a.m., I got up and walked into the office. Emily always kept her laptop there. She was careless with her passwords. Same one for years. Fendi Queen 85. She never thought she'd need to hide anything from me. That was her mistake. I sat at her desk and opened her MacBook. The screen glowed cold and blue, like a morgue light. I typed in the password. Unlocked. First thing I saw was a folder on the desktop named Tax Docs 2023. Except it wasn't taxes. Inside were hundreds of files. Pictures. Videos. Screenshots. Messages. Some of them dated back 2 years. Photos of her in lingerie I'd never seen before. Hotel receipts from places she told me were spa weekends with the girls. Conversations with men I'd never met. Jordan was just one of many. There were videos, 2 short clips with soft moans, whispers, and faces blurred in shadows. I couldn't watch more than 5 seconds of the first one before I slammed the laptop shut. I felt hollow, numb, like someone had scooped out my insides and filled me with wet cement. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was a lifestyle. A double life. A cruel performance she pulled off flawlessly every day while smiling in my face and asking if I wanted mashed potatoes for dinner. I sat there, shaking, hands in fists. Then I found the journal. She'd always kept it under the drawer, wrapped in an old cashmere scarf. Said it was just for affirmations. Yeah, right? I pulled it out, opened it, and flipped through pages of her handwriting. March 14th. Kyle's too exhausted to even look me in the eyes. I faked a headache and slipped out to meet Daniel. He booked the suite again. He likes when I pretend I'm married to him instead. June 2nd. I told Kyle I was starting therapy. It's a lie. I needed an alibi for Vegas with Caleb. God, the way he talks to me, it makes me feel alive. Not like this walking corpse I'm married to. September 18th. Sometimes I think Kyle knows. He looks at me like he's trying to find something. But he won't. He's too weak. And if he ever did, well, I always land on my feet. I always have. That line broke me. Not the cheating, not the lies, but her confidence in my weakness. That she believed I'd just take it. I took her laptop. I copied every file from that hidden folder onto a USB. Then I tucked it into my wallet like a weapon. Then I took a long, long shower. I stared at the wall for 20 minutes while hot water poured down like acid. I didn't cry. Couldn't. I was too far past sadness. Too deep into something colder. When I walked out of the bathroom, Emily was standing in the hallway, arms crossed. "Where were you?" she asked. I looked at her. So casual. So fake. "Preparing," I said. "For what?" I walked past her. "You'll see." And I meant it. She thought she had all the power. She thought I'd just take the hit, crawl into a hole, and let her live out her twisted little soap opera. She forgot who she married. And I was just getting started. The next morning, I made breakfast. Eggs, bacon, sourdough toast, the usual. I poured her coffee just the way she liked it. 1 sugar, a splash of oat milk. Placed it gently in front of her as she scrolled through her phone, pretending everything was fine. She looked up and smiled. "Wow, look at you playing house." I smiled back. "Figured you deserved a good meal before the chaos starts." She raised an eyebrow. "What chaos?" I sat across from her. "Tell me something, Em. How many men has it been?" Her expression didn't even flinch. That's when I realized how far gone she was. Define men. I slammed my fist against the table. The fork jumped. Her coffee spilled. "Don't play with me. Don't ever play with me again." She leaned back in her chair, still calm. "You went through my stuff. You left it out like a dam open wound," I said. "You wanted to be caught." She exhaled like I was boring her. "So, what now? You want a divorce? You want to cry and beg for an explanation like some pathetic soap opera husband?" "I want answers," I said. "Why me? Why stay married to me if I disgust you so much?" Emily put her elbows on the table and looked at me like a teacher explaining something to a dumb student. "Because you're safe, Kyle. You're the fallback. You're the guy who pays the mortgage and doesn't ask too many questions. You're the foundation." "And they?" I asked. "What are they?" She smiled. "They're fun." Something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. That slow spiderweb break you see on a windshield before it all shatters. "You know what's funny?" I said quietly. "You talk like you're in control, but you're not. You never were. You're just another sad, insecure narcissist who confuses attention for love." She stood up fast. "You don't get to talk to me like that." I stood too. "I'll talk to you however I damn well want now." Her voice went sharp. "And what, Kyle? You gonna hit me? You finally gonna stop being the nice guy and show some teeth?" I laughed. Cold. Empty. "No, Em. I'm not gonna hit you. I'm gonna ruin you." She narrowed her eyes. "Excuse me." I pulled the USB out of my wallet and placed it on the table. "What's that?" she asked, her voice thinner now. "Everything," I said. "Your affairs. Your messages. Your videos. Your journal entries." Her hand twitched toward it, but I moved it back. "I've already backed it up," I said. "Don't bother." Her mask finally slipped. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, but I would," I said. "Because I've got nothing left to lose." "You made sure of that." Silence. The kind that screams. Finally, she asked, "What do you want?" That was the first time she looked scared. It was subtle, but it was there, right in the corners of her eyes. "I want you gone," I said. "I want you to pack your things and leave. Today. No games. No fake tears. Just go." She started pacing. "I'm not leaving this house, Kyle. It's just as much mine." I stepped forward. "Not after the footage goes to your job. Or your family. Or, hell, social media." That stopped her in her tracks. "You'd ruin my life over this?" she whispered. I stared at her. "You already ruined mine." She turned, stormed into the bedroom. Slammed the door. I heard things breaking. Drawers yanked open. Hangers scraped. Suitcase wheels grinding against the hardwood. I walked to the bathroom, looked in the mirror. The man staring back wasn't the same. He looked tired. Cold. But alive. Finally alive. She left 2 hours later. No apology. No tears. Just one final insult tossed over her shoulder. "You were never enough." And I didn't say a word. I just closed the door. And locked it. The house was dead quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The haunted kind. Every room felt heavier, like her perfume still clung to the air out of spite. I walked through the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, each space stripped of her presence, but not of the memories. I opened the closet. Empty hangers dangled like bones. One of her heels was still under the bed, left behind like trash. I didn't touch it. Didn't throw it out. I just closed the door and moved on. You'd think I'd cry at that point, right? That's what people expect. But grief's a funny thing. It doesn't always show up with tears. Sometimes it shows up as silence. Sometimes as rage. And sometimes it shows up when you're standing alone in your own house and realize you don't know who the hell you are without her shadow beside you. By evening, the call started. Her number lit up my phone over and over. I didn't answer. Then the texts came. Emily, Kyle, let's talk like adults. Emily, this is childish. You can't just erase me. Emily, we need to talk about the house. Emily, I didn't mean what I said. I was angry. I didn't respond. Not to a single one. Then, just after midnight, I got a different kind of message. From a number I didn't recognize. Unknown, she's staying at my place. Don't make trouble, man. You had your chance. I stared at the screen. So Jordan was still in the picture. Or maybe it was someone new already. With her, it was hard to tell. Loyalty meant nothing to her. She just latched onto whoever gave her the most attention in the moment. And yet, somehow, I was still the villain in their little fantasy. I turned off my phone and poured myself a drink. I wasn't much of a drinker before, but that night I needed fire in my throat to match the one in my chest. I thought about everything I'd given her. Not just money or gifts, but years. Time. Sacrifice. Quiet forgiveness. I remembered the night her dad died and she collapsed in my arms. I remembered holding her hand through surgeries, arguments, her failed job interviews. I remembered building a life for two while she was off chasing thrills behind my back. And for what? For her to laugh in my face? To invite another man into my home and call me boring? I stood up, walked to the garage, and turned on the light. Inside was a box labeled wedding stuff. I hadn't touched it in years. I opened it slowly. Photos. Our vows. Her bouquet, now dried and cracked. Even the candle we lit together during the ceremony, half burned but still intact. I took out the framed picture of us on our honeymoon. Her in a white dress, me in a Hawaiian shirt, both of us sunburned and smiling like idiots. And I smashed it against the wall. Glass exploded. Frame snapped. And for the first time in days, I felt something real. I gathered everything from that box, every photo, letter, souvenir, and dumped it into the old fire pit in the backyard. The night was cold, the stars blurred above, and I didn't hesitate. I lit a match, and I burned it all. The flame caught fast. Pages curled. Her handwriting turned ash. Her smile vanished in the heat. I stood there for nearly an hour, just watching it all go. Not as revenge, not even as closure, but as a ritual. I wasn't her husband anymore. I wasn't her victim either. I was something else now. Something that had to rise from the wreckage she left behind. 3 days passed. I didn't answer a single one of her messages. By the 4th day, I got a knock on the door. Not a call, not a text, a knock. I opened it and found Daniel, one of my oldest friends, standing there like he'd aged 10 years since I last saw him. His eyes scanned my face. You look like you've seen hell. I stepped aside. I live there. Come in. He sat on my couch while I poured coffee. No one said anything at first. The silence between us felt heavy. Familiar. You already know, don't you? He asked quietly. I nodded. About Emily? Yeah. He rubbed his jaw. How much? Enough to burn a city. He nodded, staring at the floor. Then, without warning, he said the words I didn't expect. I was one of them. For a second, I didn't understand. One of who? He looked up. One of the guys she was seeing. It was over a year ago. She told me you two were practically separated. She said you knew. I set my cup down, hard. She said I knew? She said you agreed to see other people. That you were staying together for tax reasons. I felt the blood drain from my face. Daniel looked sick with himself. She played me too, man. I swear, if I'd known. You were in my house, Dan. His voice cracked. I didn't. Not here. Never here. Just hotels. I swear to God. I stood up and paced. My fists clenched. This was someone I trusted. Someone who held my mother's hand at her funeral. Who helped me move that damn couch into the living room. You should have told me, I said. I thought you knew. By the time I figured it out, it was already done, and I didn't know how to fix it. I thought I could just disappear. The room spun a little. Between the lies, the betrayal, the silence, everything felt like it was tightening around my throat. She destroyed everything, I whispered. And you helped her. He stood up, hands out. I didn't come here to defend myself. I came to apologize. I needed to say it. Face to face. I've lost sleep over this, Kyle. Good. I snapped. You should. He nodded. Took the hit. Didn't argue. Can I do anything? He asked. I looked him dead in the eye. Yeah, get out of my house. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him and leaned my forehead against the wood, my breath shallow. Another knife in the back. Another piece of the puzzle twisting in my stomach. Emily didn't just betray me physically, she'd gone deeper. She'd stolen my reality, fed lies to the people around me, turned my friends into weapons. How many others had she lied to? How many stories had she spun? I went back to the laptop, not to hurt myself again, but to investigate. This time, I dug deeper. I went through her messages with everyone, not just the men, but coworkers, friends, even my sister. I found flirty comments, manipulations, quiet strings she'd pulled to get what she wanted. She talked about me like I was a burden, a doormat, a sad, tired man she pitied more than loved. And every single person just agreed. No one questioned her. No one asked why she was still with me if she felt that way. Because she was charming. Because she was beautiful. Because she knew how to twist the knife with a smile. She crafted an entire persona built on lies, and I was the only one who didn't see it. Until now. But something had changed inside me. A seed of something darker had started to grow. Not hate. Not quite. Precision. She thought she was done with me. She thought she'd left me in pieces. But I was just starting to gather them. And when I was done, she learned that some men don't stay broken. They rebuild sharper. It started with the apartment. Emily moved into some high-rise downtown with one of her new toys, probably Jordan, but at this point, who knew? I found the address in her texts and made a few calls. Turns out the lease wasn't under her name, but his. I smiled at that. He didn't know what she was capable of. Not yet. But he would. The second move was the USB, the one with her collection. I didn't dump it online. I'm not that kind of man. But I did send a package to her HR department, discreetly, labeled Urgent HR Concern, Ethical Review. No return address. No fingerprints. Just screenshots. Messages. Journal entries. Not the explicit stuff, just enough to raise eyebrows. Enough to make them wonder what kind of double life their darling Emily from marketing had been living. And then I waited. 3 days later, I got a text from her. Emily, what the F*** did you do? Asterisk. I didn't answer. She called. I let it ring. She texted again, longer this time. Emily, my boss pulled me into a meeting this morning. They said they got concerns about my behavior. I could lose everything. Kyle, are you insane? Still, I didn't respond. Let her stew. Let her panic the way I had when I stood in my own home watching a stranger claim my wife like a trophy. I wasn't interested in vengeance for the sake of pain. I wasn't going to break the law or act out like some drunk ex-husband on a bender. No, my revenge would be silent. Surgical. The kind of retaliation that came wearing a tie and a calm face. And that's exactly what I wore when I met with the divorce attorney. Clean office. Leather chairs. A woman named Sharon who had seen everything and didn't flinch when I told her the short version of what happened. She'll fight you for alimony, she said. She'll come after the house, even the savings if she thinks you're weak. I smiled. I'm not weak. Sharon returned the smile. Good. Then let's prepare like she's going to war. And that's what we did. We gathered emails, documents, messages, everything. We mapped out a timeline. We put together financial statements, rental history, even the journal entries that hinted at financial infidelity, money she'd taken from our joint account to fund solo getaways with her parade of men. By the end of the week, I had everything loaded into a locked folder, ready for court. And then, I played my final pre-strike move. I sent her a message. Me, you'll be served next Tuesday. I suggest you start packing again. You're not walking out of this with anything you didn't earn. It took her 5 minutes to respond. Emily, you're destroying my life. I stared at the screen. Thought about all the nights I'd stared at the ceiling, wondering what I did wrong. All the meals she skipped to go, work late. All the little humiliations I accepted because I thought love was supposed to be patient. Then I typed one sentence. Me, you already destroyed mine. She didn't reply. But I knew her. She'd be spinning now, running scared, trying to patch up the cracks in her little empire of lies while it all caved in. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt calm. Not happy. Not victorious. Just steady. Like I'd found my balance again. I didn't need her apology anymore. I didn't need her to understand what she'd done. I just needed to finish what she started, with control. And when Tuesday came, and that envelope hit her palm, I'd be watching. Because some betrayals don't end with shouting. They end with silence. And signatures. Tuesday morning came with cold skies and silence. I stood in my driveway, coffee in hand, watching the process server's car roll up like it was delivering a package, except this one would detonate quietly, without flames. I didn't need to go with him. I didn't need to see her face. But I did. From across the street, I watched as he approached her building, walked through the lobby, and disappeared behind the glass. 5 minutes later, he returned with a short nod. "It's done," he said. That was it. No screaming. No chaos. Just silence, like the final scene of a movie where the villain realizes they're not the one in control anymore. I went back inside, set the coffee down, and looked around the house. It was cleaner now. Quieter. More mine. I replaced the bedsheets. Tore down the photos. Gave the couch away and ordered one that didn't hold her perfume in the cushions. The silence no longer echoed betrayal, it echoed peace. For a while, I kept thinking there'd be one final twist. A tantrum. A threat. One last move to shake me. But it never came. She didn't contest the divorce. Maybe because she knew she wouldn't win. Maybe because, deep down, she understood I wasn't the man she thought she left behind. She had been expecting a broken, desperate version of me to come crawling. But instead, she woke up to a man who didn't need her validation anymore. And maybe that was the real punishment. It's funny what you learn after betrayal. You think the worst part will be the cheating itself, the discovery. But it's not. It's the slow realization that the person you loved never really existed. You loved the version they gave you, the mask. And when it falls, all that's left is the hollow face underneath. I thought I'd never recover from that. But I did. Not all at once. Not in some magical moment of healing. But piece by piece. Day by day. By the time the court date arrived, I sat across from her in the courtroom and didn't feel hate anymore. I didn't feel warmth either. Just distance. Like looking at someone through glass. A memory. A life I used to wear like a second skin but outgrew. She didn't say much. Just signed where the judge told her to. I did the same. When we stepped out into the hallway, she walked up to me, eyes tired, lips painted too bright. "You know, Kyle," she said softly, "you're not as boring as I thought." I smiled. Not bitter. Not smug. Just calm. "And you're not as clever as you thought." She tilted her head. "You're different now." "No," I replied. "I'm finally me." That was the last thing I ever said to her. I walked away. No turning back. No dramatic final glance. And as I stepped into the sun, I felt something new in my chest. Not relief, exactly. Freedom. She took years from me. Time. Trust. Love. But she didn't take the core of who I am. That's what I reclaimed. That's what I rebuilt. If you're reading this, and you've been betrayed, here's what I'll say. Don't chase revenge. Chase clarity. Don't waste energy trying to change someone who was never honest to begin with. Protect your peace. Silence speaks louder than any argument. And one day, when the ashes settle, you'll wake up, look around, and realize the worst thing that ever happened to you was also the thing that set you free.
It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I had spent so many sleepless nights trying to make sense of the changes in Sarah, trying to ignore the sinking feeling gnawing at my gut. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, that it was just the stress of her job, the kids, the usual life chaos. But deep down, I knew something was off. She wasn't the same woman I married. One night, as I sat in the living room, scrolling through my phone, I noticed something strange. Her phone, lying innocently on the coffee table, was buzzing repeatedly. She'd left the room, and for a moment, I hesitated. I had always respected her privacy, but something inside me urged me to look. I knew I shouldn't. I could almost hear her voice in my head telling me, "You have no right to invade my privacy." But the buzzing continued. Her name flashed on the screen, Jessica, but this wasn't her friend from the book club. No, this was a name I didn't recognize. I stared at the phone for a long while, fighting with myself. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as if it knew what I was about to discover. Finally, unable to resist, I picked it up. It was a series of messages. They were casual at first, nothing to alarm me. But as I scrolled further, they became more intimate, suggestive even. The kind of messages that no husband should ever see between his wife and another man. It was clear now, she was seeing someone behind my back. The anger didn't hit me all at once. It came slowly, like the tide rising in an ocean, creeping up my legs before I even realized how deep it had gotten. It was a shock. A blow to the chest that left me gasping for air. This couldn't be real. But it was. I dropped the phone onto the couch, my hands trembling as I tried to calm my breathing. My mind raced, spinning through a million thoughts. Who was this guy? How long had this been going on? Was I that blind? That stupid? The room suddenly felt smaller. The walls closed in on me, and I couldn't breathe. My body froze, my thoughts scattered. But one thing was certain, I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I couldn't keep living in this lie, this twisted version of reality she had built. I needed answers, and I needed them now. As I waited for her to come back, the anger began to rise within me, hot and violent. The woman I had loved, the woman I had given everything to, had betrayed me in the most brutal way imaginable. I wanted to scream, to shout at her, to make her feel the pain she had inflicted on me. But more than that, I wanted her to explain herself. I wanted to hear her lies, hear her make excuses, twist the truth, because I knew she would. When she walked back into the room, acting as though everything was normal, I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her, trying to stay calm, trying to hide the storm brewing inside me. She smiled at me, asking if I wanted to watch something on TV, but I could barely hear her over the roar in my ears. I stood up suddenly, my chair scraping harshly against the floor, and she looked at me, confused. The calm in her eyes made me want to tear something apart. She didn't know I had seen the truth. "Who is Jessica?" I asked, my voice low and steady. It felt like my chest was caving in, and yet, I could still hear the words clearly as they left my lips. She blinked, caught off guard, her face flushing. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, trying to play it cool, but I could hear the nervous edge in her voice. She was lying. I could tell. "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice hardening. "I know about your little affair. I know about the messages. So stop pretending." Her expression faltered for just a second before she plastered a smile on her face, as if I hadn't just torn down the walls of our marriage. "It's not what you think," she said, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. The truth was there, and no matter how much she tried to cover it up, it was too late. I waited for her to say something else, to dig herself deeper, but nothing came. She just stood there, her lips trembling, trying to maintain the facade. And in that moment, I knew, the woman I had given my life to had already given her heart away to someone else. Her silence hung in the air like a thick fog, and it only made my anger grow. Sarah's expression, once warm and familiar, now seemed so distant, so foreign. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. I saw the guilt in her eyes, but she wasn't going to admit it. Of course, she wouldn't. It was easier for her to keep pretending, to keep lying, than to face the truth. "Who is he, Sarah?" I repeated, my voice getting sharper. The need for answers was drowning out everything else in my mind. I deserve to know who this guy is. How long has this been going on? She took a step back, her hands trembling slightly. I could tell she wasn't expecting me to be so calm about it, but I had learned over the years that rage could cloud your judgment. And right now, I wanted clarity, not more confusion. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, her words coming out like a rehearsed lie. "It's not. I didn't. Stop. Just stop." I cut her off, not caring about the tears that were starting to form in her eyes. "I'm done with the excuses. This isn't some misunderstanding. I've seen the messages, Sarah. I've seen everything. You've been sleeping around behind my back. For how long? Tell me." I could feel the heat rising in my chest, a mix of rage and betrayal. I wanted to lash out, to throw things, to scream. But instead, I just stood there, staring at her. She took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure, but I could see the cracks forming in her facade. She was about to crumble. "His name is Brian," she finally confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "It started a few months ago, but it didn't mean anything. It was just," she trailed off, her voice faltering, her words empty. "It was just a mistake." I shook my head, disbelieving. "A mistake?" I repeated, my voice dripping with contempt. "A mistake that's lasted months? A mistake that you've been keeping hidden from me? Do you think I'm stupid?" Her eyes flickered with a flash of guilt, but she quickly masked it, trying to salvage the situation. "It wasn't like that. I didn't mean for it to happen, okay? I was lonely. You're always working, and we drifted apart. I didn't know what to do anymore. Lonely." Her excuse was so weak, so pathetic. It stung in a way that words couldn't even express. I had always been there for her, through everything. And this is how she repaid me? With lies, with betrayal? "So, instead of talking to me, you decided to sleep with someone else?" I spat, my voice rising now. "You couldn't come to me, you couldn't try to fix this with me. No, you chose to lie to my face and pretend everything was fine while you were screwing another man." Her shoulders slumped, her eyes darting to the floor as if she couldn't bear to look me in the eye. She opened her mouth to say something, but I was done listening. I had trusted her. I had loved her. And she had crushed it all. There was no going back. There was no apology that could fix this. No words that could undo the damage she had done. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice quivering. "I know I messed up. But please, can we work through this? We can fix it, I swear. We can." "Fix it?" I interrupted, incredulous. "There's nothing to fix, Sarah. You've destroyed this, and there's no coming back from that. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. And now you're trying to manipulate me into forgiving you, but I'm done. I'm so done with all of this." She let out a shaky breath, her eyes pleading with me. "Please, don't leave me. I love you. I do. I just made a mistake. You know how hard things have been between us. Can't you see that? I need you to understand." It was as if she wasn't even hearing herself. The same tired excuses, the same manipulative tactics she had used over the years. The difference now was that I wasn't buying it. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into thinking I was at fault. "You need me?" I echoed, stepping closer to her, my voice low and dangerous. "You need me after everything? After all the lies, after everything you've done behind my back? No. You don't get to need me. Not anymore." I could feel my hands balling into fists at my sides, and my whole body was shaking with rage. But somehow, I managed to keep my cool, just barely. I wasn't going to let her break me any more than she already had. "I don't know what's worse," I continued, my voice dripping with contempt, "the fact that you cheated on me, or that you think you can just talk your way out of it. Like I'm supposed to just forgive you because you say you love me. I'm not your fool anymore, Sarah." Her face crumpled, and she took a step back, her chest heaving as she tried to control her emotions. "Please, don't leave me. Please, I'm begging you." I could feel my anger bubbling over again, but this time, I wasn't angry at her anymore. I was angry at myself for not seeing the truth sooner. I was angry for giving her so many chances, for giving her all of me, only to have her throw it away. "Too late," I whispered, my voice steady but filled with finality. "I'm done, Sarah. This marriage is over." As I turned to leave, I could hear her crying behind me, but I didn't look back. I couldn't. The weight of the betrayal was crushing, and I couldn't stay in that house any longer. Not with her, not with the lies that had tainted everything. I didn't know what would come next. I didn't know how I'd pick up the pieces of my broken life. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let her break me anymore. As I slammed the door behind me and stepped out into the night air, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. I wanted to scream, but there was no one left to hear it. No one who could understand the depths of the betrayal that had just shattered my life. My hands clenched into fists, my whole body rigid with a mix of rage and disbelief. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed to get away from her. I needed space. I needed to be far from the house, far from the woman who had broken every trust one ever had. I could still hear her voice in my head, begging me not to leave, pleading for another chance. But it was too late. Too late for apologies. Too late for explanations. I walked aimlessly down the street, the cold wind biting into my skin, but it did nothing to numb the fire burning inside me. I found myself at the bar a few blocks away, the place where I used to go when I needed to clear my head. The familiar ding of the door opening felt like a cruel reminder of how much had changed. I wasn't the same person who had walked in here before. I was broken. And no amount of alcohol was going to fix that. I sat at the bar and ordered a whiskey, staring into the amber liquid as it swirled in the glass. My mind was a blur, the betrayal echoing through my thoughts. I didn't want to think about her, about Sarah. But I couldn't escape it. The memories flooded back, the dinners we had shared, the vacations we took, the promises we made to each other. All of it felt like a cruel joke now. The bartender, an older man named Frank, gave me a knowing look. He'd seen people like me before, people who were drowning in pain, trying to numb it with alcohol. He didn't ask any questions, just served the drink and let me be. The silence in the bar was comforting, almost suffocating. I welcomed it. But just as I was starting to lose myself in my thoughts, the door swung open again. A man walked in, tall, broad-shouldered, with a confident stride. He was dressed in a suit, looking out of place in the dimly lit bar, but there was something familiar about him. I couldn't place it at first, but then it hit me. Brian. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The man my wife had been seeing behind my back. The one who had been texting her, sending those intimate messages, sharing those moments that should have been mine. He didn't see me at first, but I knew. I could feel the rage bubbling up again. I stood up without thinking, my legs trembling from the adrenaline coursing through me. I walked straight toward him, my fists clenched, my heart pounding in my chest. He turned around just in time to see me coming, his eyes widening in surprise. "Hey," I said, my voice low but cold, "we need to talk." His expression faltered, and for a split second, I saw the fear in his eyes. He knew exactly who I was. "Look, man," he started, trying to sound calm, but I could see the nervousness creeping into his voice. "I don't know what you think is going on, but—" "Don't play dumb with me," I interrupted, my words dripping with contempt. "You've been sleeping with my wife." "My wife, you scumbag." "I'm done pretending like I don't know what's been happening behind my back. And now, I'm here to make sure you understand exactly what happens when you disrespect me like this." Brian stepped back, his face blanching as I stepped closer. I could see him calculating his next move, trying to figure out if he could talk his way out of it. But I wasn't in the mood for talk anymore. I had been betrayed. And all I wanted was to make him feel the consequences of his actions. "Listen," Brian said, trying to sound calm, but his voice was shaking. "I didn't know you." "Cut the crap," I spat. "You knew exactly who I was. You knew she was married. You knew you were crossing a line. But you didn't care, did you?" The bartender, Frank, started to move toward us, probably sensing the tension rising, but I wasn't done. "Not yet." Brian's eyes flickered nervously as he took another step back, but I didn't let up. You think you can just come into my life and ruin everything I've worked for? I asked, my voice low but full of menace. You think you can have her and walk away without any consequences? Brian raised his hands in defense, his face a mix of fear and annoyance. Look, man, I didn't mean to. I don't care what you meant, I cut him off, my voice growing louder now. You crossed a line. And now, you'll pay for it. For a moment, we just stood there, glaring at each other, the tension thick in the air. I could see his resolve starting to crumble, but I wasn't going to let him off easy. But just as I was about to step closer to him, a voice rang out from the doorway. Stop. Both of you. I turned, startled, to see a woman standing in the entrance of the bar. She wasn't someone I recognized, but there was something about her that caught my attention. She was tall, with dark hair and a determined look in her eyes. I don't know what's going on here, she continued, her voice firm, but you need to take a step back. All of you. She turned to Brian, then to me. Whatever is happening, it's not going to end like this. Not here. I froze for a moment, not sure what to make of her interference. But there was something about her presence, something that made me reconsider my next move. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe this woman was here to remind me that I didn't need to stoop to this level. I glanced at Brian, then back at her. I could feel the heat of anger still simmering inside me, but something in her gaze stopped me from going any further. I wasn't sure what she was trying to do, but it was enough to make me reconsider, at least for the moment. Maybe I didn't have to let the anger consume me. Maybe I could find another way to deal with this. With a final, lingering look at Brian, I turned around and walked out of the bar, my heart still racing. The anger wasn't gone, but the woman's words echoed in my mind. And as I stepped back out into the cold night, I realized something. I had to find a way to take back control, not just for her, but for myself. I stepped out of the bar, the cold night air biting at my skin, my mind still a chaotic mess. I had confronted Brian, felt the heat of anger surge through me, but the woman who'd intervened, her calm yet unwavering presence, had planted a seed of doubt in my mind. I didn't know who she was or why she'd stepped in, but for the first time that night, I felt a sliver of hesitation. I didn't want to hesitate. I wanted to hurt them both. I wanted to make them feel the way I did, crushed and betrayed. But as I walked down the empty street, my mind kept turning over the woman's words. Whatever is happening, it's not going to end like this. Not here. It had felt like a warning, one that rattled me more than I wanted to admit. I didn't know where I was going, but I needed to clear my head. I walked, hands in my pockets, the weight of the world pressing down on me with every step. The streets were deserted, the usual hum of life muted by the late hour. I didn't care. I just needed to be away from Sarah, away from everything that had once felt safe and secure. But then, just as I rounded a corner, I saw a shadow moving in the alley ahead. It was a figure, tall and indistinct in the darkness, but the moment I saw it, I knew. Something deep in my gut told me this wasn't just another passerby. The figure stepped closer, and I froze. It wasn't Sarah. But it was someone I didn't expect to see at this hour. It was Brian. I stood frozen for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. What was he doing here? He was supposed to be at the bar, trying to explain himself or whatever. But now, he was standing in front of me, in the quiet alley, and his face wore an unfamiliar expression, uneasy, but almost expectant. Still got something to say? I asked, my voice biting and hard. Brian looked around nervously, his eyes darting from side to side, as if he was trying to make sure no one else was watching. Look, man, I didn't mean for this to go the way it did. I didn't know you were. I didn't know this would go this far, he muttered, his voice dripping with guilt. Cut the crap, Brian, I growled. Why the hell are you following me? What do you want now? Brian took a deep breath, seemingly steeling himself for something. You don't get it, do you? He said quietly. You think I'm the only one at fault here. But you're wrong. His words hit me like a punch in the chest. I took a step forward, narrowing my eyes at him. What the hell are you talking about? He looked up at me, his expression pained. I'm not the only one she's been playing. You think you're the only one hurt in this? You think you've got the monopoly on pain here? I felt a chill run down my spine. What was he saying? What are you trying to tell me, Brian? He stepped closer, his face a mixture of frustration and regret. You need to listen. You think Sarah's been faithful to you? Think again. She's been running a game on both of us. I'm not the first guy she's been with. Hell, I'm not even the second. My mind reeled. What the hell was he talking about? Sarah had always been so perfect, so controlled. Or so I thought. Why should I believe you? I snapped. You've already lied to me enough. Brian exhaled sharply, his voice quieter now, as if he was choosing his words carefully. I never wanted to be a part of her games, man. I thought it was just supposed to be fun. But I saw things. Things I didn't want to see. She was seeing other guys. I'm talking about before me. She was always seeing other people. This isn't just about me and you. You're just the guy she keeps going back to when it gets convenient. When she's bored or needs someone to pay attention to her. You're a fallback plan. My breath caught in my throat. No. That couldn't be right. But Brian was standing there, his eyes locked onto mine, filled with an honesty that cut through all the lies I had been fed. She never really loved you, man, he said, voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. But you've been played. You've always been played. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. Everything I thought I knew, about Sarah, about us, was crumbling before my eyes. My hands clenched into fists, my body trembling with a mixture of disbelief and rage. Why are you telling me this now? I demanded, my voice hoarse. Because I can't live with it anymore, he admitted, his face twisted in frustration. I don't care about you, man. I don't care about Sarah either. But I can't let you keep walking around thinking you're the only one in the dark. She's been stringing us both along for months, and I don't think you deserve that. You deserve the truth. For a moment, I just stood there, unable to process what he had just said. My head felt like it was spinning, the world around me a blur. Was it possible? Had Sarah really been that deceptive, that manipulative? Had I been so blinded by my own love for her that I couldn't see the truth? Brian stepped back, his face tense with apprehension. I'm sorry, man. I didn't want it to go like this. But I can't be part of this anymore. Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night as quickly as he had appeared. I stood there in the alley, my thoughts swirling. This wasn't just about her affair anymore. It was about everything. About the lies, the manipulation, the decades of trust that had been shattered in a single moment. For a second, I felt lost. But then something snapped within me. I wasn't done. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let Sarah win. Not after everything she had done. Not after everything I had lost. I walked out of the alley, my head clearer than it had been all night. Whatever I had to do next, I would make sure she felt the consequences of her actions. No one played me like this. No one. The night air felt colder now, the sharp sting of the wind making my thoughts feel even more chaotic. As I walked down the street, still processing Brian's words, I couldn't escape the weight of the truth he had dropped on me. Sarah hadn't just been unfaithful with Brian, she had been running a game. A web of lies, manipulations, and empty promises designed to keep me close while she strung other men along. I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears, the the anger growing like a wildfire that wouldn't be contained. I couldn't go back to her. Not after this. Not after what Brian had said. It was clear now that I had been a fool. She'd used me. And what's worse, I had let it happen. I didn't even know where I was going. My feet carried me on autopilot, but every step felt like it was leading me further into a nightmare. I tried to push away the anger, the burning betrayal that threatened to consume me, but the deeper I thought about it, the more my fists clenched. I couldn't believe I had given her everything, my time, my trust, my love, and in return, she had given me nothing but lies. I reached my apartment building and stood outside for a moment, staring up at the window to our shared home. I wanted to feel anger, but instead, there was an empty, hollow sensation gnawing at my gut. It wasn't just rage anymore. It was sorrow. A deep, crushing sorrow that I hadn't felt in years. Then, without thinking, I stepped inside the building. The elevator ride felt like an eternity. The slow hum of the machine was deafening, and the flickering lights above made me feel as if I was descending into some kind of hell. By the time I reached our floor, I could already hear Sarah's voice from behind the door. The sound of her laughter. A man's laughter. The same sound that should have been mine, filling the empty spaces of our home. I froze in the hallway, staring at the door to our apartment. Everything inside me screamed to storm in, to confront her right then and there. But there was a part of me that wanted to make her feel the same fear I had felt all night. I wanted to make sure she knew exactly how badly she had betrayed me before I went in. I reached for the doorknob, but before I could turn it, I heard something that made my blood run cold. A voice, Sarah's voice, muffled through the door. But it wasn't just her. There was another voice, too. The unmistakable voice of a man. "Don't you love me, Sarah?" the voice asked, almost pleading. I felt my heart drop to my stomach. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That voice, that pitiful question, it wasn't Brian's. It was someone else. Someone she had been seeing behind my back while she'd been pretending to be my wife. For a moment, I felt like the walls were closing in on me. The rage that had simmered in my chest suddenly boiled over. My fists clenched so tight that my nails dug into my palms. She had been lying to me for months. Or maybe longer. I had been nothing but a convenient placeholder for her, a man to take care of her while she played the field. I shoved the door open without a second thought. The sight that greeted me inside was worse than I had ever imagined. Sarah was sitting on the couch, her back arched in a way I had never seen before. She was in a deep, intimate conversation with a man I had never seen before. And as my eyes flicked from her to him, I felt a surge of something primal. This wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. The man was sitting too close to her, their bodies angled toward each other in that unmistakable way that only happens when two people are sharing something, more than just a conversation. The man was a stranger, a guy with short cropped hair and a confident smirk. But the look on Sarah's face, the way she smiled at him, leaned in closer, made my blood boil. This wasn't just another fling. This was the final straw. "Sarah," I growled, the sound coming out low and guttural. She froze, her face draining of color as she looked up at me. The stranger next to her flinched, but he didn't get up. He didn't seem to care at all that the husband had just walked in on them. "Don't you dare look at me like that," I continued, my voice sharp with anger. "How long? How long were you planning on keeping me in the dark?" Sarah opened her mouth to speak, but I wasn't having it anymore. "Don't even try to apologize," I snapped. "I've heard all your lies already. I'm not buying it this time." The man sitting beside her stood up, his expression cocky. "What's your problem, man? She's not yours anymore." I shot him a deadly glare, and for a second, I could see his bravado falter. But Sarah wasn't finished yet. She stood up, her hands outstretched as if trying to calm the situation, but the look on her face was not one of guilt. No. It was defiance. "Calm down, Jack," she said with that same fake sweetness that had once made me feel like I was everything to her. "You don't need to make a scene." "A scene?" I laughed bitterly. "You've been making scenes behind my back for months, and now you want me to calm down?" I was beyond the point of reason. Beyond the point of just wanting answers. I needed to make her understand. "You know what?" I said, my voice icy cold. "I'm done, Sarah. I don't care anymore. I don't care about you, or this guy, or anything you've tried to build here. You're nothing but a liar, and I'm not sticking around for another second." Sarah's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. "Fine," she spat. "Leave then. I don't need you. I never did." I took one last look at her, feeling the weight of the years we had spent together crashing down on me. All of it was a lie. And I was done playing along. Without another word, I turned and walked out. This time, I didn't look back. I had made my decision. And no matter how much it hurt, I was going to stick to it. There was no going back to her. Not now. Not ever. But something else had changed in me too. I had a new strength, a newfound clarity. I wasn't going to let her win. Not after everything she'd done. I walked out of the apartment, my mind whirling with a mixture of rage, disbelief, and a deep sense of emptiness. My chest felt hollow, like the life had been sucked out of me in one brutal, calculated motion. The door slammed behind me, but the echo felt like it would reverberate through my mind forever. The night air had never felt colder. I pulled my coat tighter around myself, but it did nothing to shield me from the storm brewing inside. The weight of Sarah's words, her smirk, the look in her eyes when she dismissed me, it all kept playing on a loop in my head. The longer I stood there, the more I realized something. I wasn't just hurt. I was broken. She had taken everything from me, and now there was nothing left to hold on to. I didn't know where I was going. My feet just moved, almost like they were trying to get away from the scene that had unfolded back in that apartment. My mind kept jumping from one thing to another, the betrayal, the man she had been with, the lies that had built up around me, and the cruel, cold indifference she had shown me in the end. I had been a fool for so long, blind to what was right in front of me. But there was one thing I knew for sure, I wasn't going to let her walk away without consequences. Not after everything she had done. I found myself at the edge of town, at an old park I used to walk through with Sarah when things were good. The swings were still there, the bench we sat on still looked the same. But now, it all felt so distant, like a memory that didn't belong to me anymore. I took out my phone, my hands trembling. Without thinking, I dialed a number I hadn't even realized I still had memorized. "Jack?" a voice answered, groggy and confused. "Yeah, it's me," I said, forcing my voice to remain steady, though every word felt like it was scraping at my soul. "I need a favor." There was a pause. I could hear the shuffle of movement on the other end of the line, as if they were waking up. "What's going on? You sound different." "I'm done," I muttered, pacing back and forth. "I'm done with Sarah. Done with all of it. I need to make this right. I need to make her pay for what she's done." There was another pause, and I could almost feel the hesitation coming through the line. "Are you sure about this? What happened, Jack? Just meet me. I'll explain everything when you get here." I hung up before they could say anything more. I didn't have time for words anymore. I had made up my mind. The moments that followed were a blur. I didn't know how much time passed as I stood there, waiting. The cold gnawed at my bones, but nothing hurt like the weight of what I had just learned. The betrayal, the lies, the utter disrespect, it was all too much. I couldn't just walk away from it. Not yet. The headlights of a car finally broke through the darkness, and the familiar figure of my old friend, Marcus, pulled up in front of me. He stepped out of the car, looking at me with concern. "Jack, what's going on?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "You said you needed me, but what happened? What's this all about?" I looked at him, the anger bubbling back to the surface. I felt like I was going to explode. "She's been lying to me, Marcus. She's been playing me the entire time. All those nights I stayed up worrying about her, she was with him. And probably with a dozen others. I'm done being her fool." Marcus's face softened as he approached me. "Man, I'm sorry. That's rough. But what are you planning to do about it? You don't seem like you're in a good place right now." I didn't know how to answer that. The old me would have thought things through, would have tried to salvage something from the wreckage. But that man was gone. The guy standing here, in front of Marcus, was a man who felt like his soul had been torn apart. And I didn't care about the consequences anymore. All I could think about was making Sarah feel the weight of what she'd done. I need to make her see what she's done. I need to make her regret everything, I said, my voice low and dangerous. She needs to feel what I'm feeling. She needs to understand the pain. Marcus stared at me for a moment, his brow furrowed in thought. "Jack, listen. This isn't the way. This isn't who you are. I get that you're angry, but you can't just go down that road. It's not going to fix anything. It's just going to make it worse. Trust me on that." I felt a knot form in my stomach, but the rage refused to fade. "I don't care. I've been her punching bag for too long. I've let her walk all over me. Not anymore. I'm done being the nice guy." He stepped closer, his voice firm now. "I'm not saying you should just let her off the hook. I'm saying there's a better way to deal with this. You don't need to do something you'll regret. You don't need to get revenge. Trust me, you'll feel better if you don't. Just walk away from her. Walk away, and let her deal with her own mess." I shook my head, taking a step back. "It's too late for that. I've already made my decision. I'm done." Marcus didn't argue anymore. He just nodded, the expression on his face saying everything he didn't need to. He wasn't agreeing with me, but he wasn't going to stop me either. For a long moment, we just stood there in silence. The wind howled around us, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own heart. There was no going back. Eventually, Marcus gave me a long, hard look. "I'm here for you, man. Whatever you decide, just know that you don't have to do this alone." But as I turned to walk away, something inside me shifted. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe I didn't need to go down the path of revenge. Maybe it wasn't about making Sarah regret anything. Maybe it was about finding peace. But it was too late to turn back now. The storm was coming, and I wasn't sure what would be left when it passed. The drive back to my apartment was a blur. The streets blurred beneath me, the world outside as chaotic and distorted as my thoughts. I couldn't stop replaying the events from earlier. Sarah's face when she saw me. The man, so casual, so smug in his position next to her. I should have walked away. I should have left and never looked back. But I didn't. I was too deep in it now, my emotions a tangled mess of rage, betrayal, and something far worse, regret. The old me, the one who used to care about her so deeply, was slipping away, replaced by someone harder, colder. I wasn't sure if that person would be able to walk away when this was all over, but I couldn't worry about that now. I had to face her. I had to get the answers I deserved. And if she was going to lie again, then I had to make her see the consequences of her actions. I parked my car outside the apartment building and sat there for a moment, the engine still running. The familiar hum of the car seemed like the only thing grounding me, keeping me tethered to the present. I looked at my phone, staring at the last message from Sarah, a message that still stung even though I had read it dozens of times. Stop being so dramatic. You're overreacting. I gritted my teeth, rage flashing through me once more. Overreacting? After everything? After what I saw tonight? No. This wasn't overreacting. This was reality. My reality. And it was time for her to face it. I stepped out of the car, my shoes hitting the pavement with each deliberate step. I could feel the weight of what I was about to do, but I didn't care. I had spent too long caring about her feelings, about her lies, and it had gotten me nowhere. I wasn't doing this for closure anymore. I was doing this for me. For my own sanity. And if she couldn't handle it, then that was her problem. When I got to the apartment door, I hesitated for a second, my hand resting on the doorknob. Inside, I could hear her voice, soft and soothing. But the words were nothing more than noise to me now. She was trying to make things sound better, trying to make herself sound innocent, but the truth was unmistakable. She wasn't innocent. She never had been. I swung the door open. Jack, what are you? Sarah began, her voice faltering as her eyes met mine. She was sitting on the couch, but this time, there was no stranger by her side. The smugness was gone from her face, replaced by that all-too-familiar look of guilt. She knew what I had seen. She knew what was coming. Don't, I snapped, holding up a hand to stop her before she could say anything. I stepped inside, shutting the door behind me with a force that made the room feel smaller. Don't act like you didn't know this was coming. I've had enough. Her eyes widened, the facade of calmness she had been trying to maintain slipping for a moment. Jack, Shut up, Sarah, I growled, my voice low and steady. Don't even try to explain yourself. I'm done with your excuses. She stood up now, the anger in her eyes mixing with desperation. Jack, please. We can talk about this. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of amusement. It was a bitter sound, one filled with so much anger that it felt like a wound inside me was reopening with every word. Never meant to hurt me? Really? Is that what you tell yourself every time you do this? Every time you sleep with someone else while I'm out there, working, supporting us, thinking you're my partner? You think I don't know? You think I don't feel every little piece of betrayal? She took a step back, her eyes flickering with guilt, but then, as if some switch flipped, the venom returned to her expression. You don't get it, do you? I didn't ask for this life with you. I didn't sign up for your constant moods, your controlling behavior. I wanted something more, and I found it. It's not my fault if you weren't enough for me anymore. I felt the rage rise up again, an uncontrollable wave that threatened to consume me. The audacity of this woman, after everything I had given her, she had the nerve to stand there and blame me. You think you're the victim here? I growled, stepping toward her. You think I haven't given you every piece of me? Every last ounce of love, and this is how you repay me? Sarah crossed her arms, looking away. Don't act like you're some saint, Jack. You were never there for me. You were always too busy, too focused on yourself. The words hit me like a slap, and for a moment, everything inside me froze. I had always believed we were a team. I had given everything to make her happy, to make her feel loved. I hadn't been perfect, who was? But I had tried. And for her to say that. I was done. Done with the lies. Done with the manipulation. Done with the cruelty. You know what, Sarah? I said, my voice quiet but filled with finality. I'm done fighting for something that isn't real. I'm done chasing after someone who doesn't care about me. You've made your choice. You've made it clear. And so have I. I took a deep breath, gathering every ounce of strength I had left. This is it. I'm leaving. And this time, it's for good. She didn't try to stop me. She just stood there, watching me with that cold, distant look in her eyes. And as I turned to leave, I knew I wasn't coming back. I wasn't sure what would happen next. I didn't know if I'd ever find peace, if I'd ever be able to forget the betrayal she'd inflicted on me. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let her drag me down any longer. I had been blind, but now I saw the truth. And I wasn't going to let that truth ruin me. As I closed the door behind me, a sense of finality washed over me. This chapter of my life was over. And in that moment, I realized that the hardest thing wasn't walking away from her, it was walking away from everything I had once believed was real. The apartment door clicked shut behind me with a finality that echoed in my chest. The weight of it felt like an anchor, pulling me down. The last remnants of the life I had built with Sarah, the memories, the quiet moments, the promises, all of it was gone. The silence outside the door was deafening, but it was also oddly peaceful. I stood there for a long moment, trying to steady my breath. I had thought I would feel relief, some sense of closure after everything, but instead, I felt an empty hollowness, a void that spread through my chest. I wasn't sure if it was from the anger or from the loss. Or maybe both. As I walked down the stairwell of the building, the cool air outside hit my face like a slap. I could taste the bitterness in my mouth, and for a moment, I almost wondered if I had made the right choice. But then I remembered her face, the indifference she had shown me, and the coldness of her words. I didn't ask for this life with you. The words stung, but they also solidified the truth in my mind. She had made her choice, and now, so had I. There was no going back. Not anymore. I walked to my car without looking back. The city around me buzzed with life, the lights of the street lamps blurring as I passed. But I was numb, lost in a place where everything felt distant. My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me from the fog of my thoughts. I pulled it out, half expecting it to be Sarah, but instead, it was a text from Marcus. "You good? You need anything?" I stared at the message for a long time before typing a response, "I'm fine. Just, done." It felt like the right thing to say, even though I knew it wasn't entirely true. I wasn't fine. Not really. But maybe I would be someday. Maybe this would be the start of something new. Maybe it had to be. I started the car and pulled away, my mind whirling with everything that had happened. It had been a violent storm, a whirlwind of emotions, but now that it was over, I couldn't deny that there was a small part of me that felt like I had regained control. Like I had reclaimed a piece of myself that had been lost in the chaos. I had let Sarah manipulate me, let her use me as her emotional punching bag, but no more. The truth was, I was stronger than I had given myself credit for. I didn't need her. I didn't need anyone who would treat me like that. I had spent too long holding onto a fantasy, clinging to a life that never really existed. And now that I had let go, I could see the world more clearly. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove aimlessly, trying to put as much distance between me and everything I had just left behind. Eventually, I ended up at a bar. The kind of place where nobody knew my name. I sat at the counter, ordered a drink, and let the cool burn of whiskey settle in my gut. I didn't want to think about Sarah anymore. I didn't want to think about the life we had built, or the pain she had caused me. I just needed to breathe. I needed to exist in this moment, without the weight of the past dragging me down. Somewhere deep inside me, I knew this wasn't the end of my journey. Maybe it was the end of my marriage, but not the end of me. I wasn't the same person I was before, and I wasn't sure who I would be next. But one thing was certain, I was going to keep moving forward. I had to. For myself. I stayed at the bar for a while longer, letting the hours slip by. The crowd was loud, and the music was constant, but it didn't matter. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I wasn't drowning in her lies anymore. I was free. As I finished my drink and stood to leave, I glanced at my reflection in the mirror behind the bar. I didn't recognize the man staring back at me. His eyes were dark, but there was something else there now. A kind of fire, a resolve that hadn't been there before. He wasn't broken. He wasn't lost. He was just beginning. I stepped out into the cool night air, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Because whatever it was, I knew I would face it on my own terms. And that, in itself, was enough. The reflection. Looking back, I realized that the hardest part of it all wasn't leaving Sarah, it was letting go of the fantasy I had built around us. It was accepting that I wasn't the person I thought I was, and that the life we had wasn't real. But I've learned something in this journey. That pain, no matter how deep, doesn't last forever. And when you make the choice to walk away, it's not about leaving someone behind, it's about finally choosing yourself. If there's any advice I could give to someone in a similar situation, it's this: don't let anyone, no matter how much you love them, make you feel small. Don't let their lies, their betrayal, their indifference define who you are. You are stronger than you know. And in the end, you'll always have yourself to rely on. That's the one thing nobody can take away from you.